Welcome to Late Night Health, the radio show and the online video series that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. I'm Mark Alyn, and we spend some time each week with Dr. Greg Celaya, who's a functional medicine specialist, a chiropractor, and he has advanced degrees in nutrition. Today, we're going to talk about flavors, and we're going to find out about natural, and I would assume also artificial flavorings that abound in our food. Dr. Celaya, welcome back to Late Night Health.
Hey, Mark, it's good to be here. So, the demand for natural products, non-GMO and organic, are about $50 billion last year, and it's just growing like crazy. And most people equate natural with certified organic or healthy, right? And about 66% of people believe that natural means that it has no artificial ingredients, no pesticides, no GMO. And about 55% of people are willing to pay more for foods that are like that. But unfortunately, when we start looking at natural flavor, it's an umbrella that terms for chemicals that are originally bound or found, so to speak, in natural occurring sources, but they may not necessarily be natural to the food you're consuming.
Well, I can understand, taking something from, a fruit and making it enhance another plant or even an animal product. But before we started, you gave me some pretty bizarre examples, like raspberry flavorings, natural raspberry flavorings. Tell us where that source is from.
Well, we'll get into that one. To make a flavor, it may take about 100 different chemicals, up to 100 different chemicals to make a flavor. One of the problems is that people actually have gotten used to incredible strong flavors. And so, in fact, flavors that aren't necessarily normal, number one. Number two, when we start looking at a lot of processed foods, they cook them to death or they pasteurize them or whatever they do to it, that it needs to be supplemented to taste better to people, so they buy more of it. So a lot of these flavors are engineered to get you to buy more of the product.
And that would include products that use natural flavorings?
Absolutely, natural flavorings. So for example, natural flavorings, if we want to make it simple, it's anything that you can eat. So it's a plant or animal source. Artificial flavorings are everything else. So, we're going to talk quite a bit more about natural flavorings because people just equate natural flavorings with, oh, it's okay, I can eat those.
Right.
So
this might be a good time to illustrate what you told me about raspberry flavoring. Raspberries are probably my favorite berry.
All right. So I'm going to be reading some of this stuff here because I've got a lot. So you know how Skittles and other candies are shiny?
Yes.
So they use a sticky secretion from a beetle in East Asia to give it that shine.
Okay. Fortunately, I don't eat Skittles.
You're lucky on that one, right?
Yeah, right.
So here's your favorite. Natural raspberry flavoring comes from the anal glands of beavers.
All right. First of all, what person was eating a beaver?
How did they find that one out?
How did they find that one out? That's beyond my comprehension. It's like the Big Bang Theory. I don't get it. So those are two very strange sources of flavorings or food additives.
Yeah, and different foods can come from different chemicals. It could include a carrier solvent, a preservative. We were talking in other videos about MSG. That's considered a natural flavoring. We have aspartame, and they're both neurotoxins and perhaps even excitotoxins. And so there's so many different things that can be considered a natural flavoring. So let me give you the definition from the FDA. All right.
Right.
So it says the term natural flavor or natural flavorings means the essential oil, resins, and essence, or extractive, protein distillates, or product of roasting, heating, enzymolysis, which contains flavoring constitutes derived from spice, fruit juice, vegetable or vegetable juice, edible yeast, herbs, bark, bud, root, leaf, or similar plant material, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy products, or fermentation products thereof, whose significant function in food is flavoring rather than nutritional. So there's quite a bit of a list here.
Yeah,
And
but the description that's saying that the base has to be from some kind of natural product, would be it plant or animal. And would that be a bottom line on that?
yeah, pretty much. But I mean, it's so. For example, you mentioned, we were talking earlier, and you mentioned orange soda. Well, orange soda may have either natural or just regular flavoring, and if it's not natural flavoring, it's usually artificial. So it's manufactured in a lab. And just because it says natural doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting orange in your orange soda, right? So
Right.
let's say,
And to me, orange soda, and I still don't understand why it can't be done, is orange juice, a little bit of carbonated water. That's it. What else do you need?
well, you and I both agree, but you may not have a shelf life to sell anything, and there's other things. So, for example, what happens with a lot of these juices? For example, let's say normal orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
They take orange juice and they pasteurize the to death. They cook it so we don't have any bacterial issues. Well, when you cook it so much, you destroy some of the flavoring. And to be able to get some of those flavors back, they go ahead and they engineer flavoring to put back into it. And most likely has nothing even to do with oranges or orange juice.
Wow. That to me, that's scary.
Yeah. So, for example, there's a big long list. I have 100 different chemicals, but I'll start off here. So we have amyl acetate, amyl butyrate, amyl valerate, ethyl butyrate, esters, ethyl acetate, ethyl valerate, ethyl isovalerate. I mean,
Any idea, any clue what these are, what these mean?
they can be flavors. So, for example, an isovalerate can be a flavor, and you may see it precursed by, let's say, for example, a cinnamon subword. And so there's plenty of different chemicals here, and you got to remember even everything in a food can be given a chemical name.
Right.
But, I mean, we're talking a big whole laundry list here, and I don't think that our viewers would want to hear all these, but they can all be considered a natural flavor or a natural portion of that natural flavor.
Got
So
it.
we get into problems. And, when we start looking at natural flavoring, does that constitute GMO issues as well? So, for example, we were talking about natural, and people assuming that it's normal or it's healthy for you. So here's a few products, and I know we're kind of getting a little bit on a tangent, but it uses the word nature. So there's Nature Valley granola bars, Post shredded wheat, Sioux honey, and Bigelow teas have all been tested positive for glyphosate, which is Roundup. And Roundup,
That's what's found in genetically modified material, plant material.
it can, because with GMOs, they're able to spray Roundup or glyphosate on the plant up to a week before harvest to kill the weeds. But it gets on your product, and the GMO food isn't affected by the glyphosate, but it's still on there. And so I was reading something the other day and looking at the World Health Organization take on glyphosate, and they say it's carcinogenic. And I don't know if you remember, but California came out with the same statement not too long ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I think it was turned down by the voters.
Well, no, here's what happened. And, the reason we use is California, because they're a little bit crazy and kind of do stuff before everybody else. And so what happened is they were going to put anything that had glyphosate used on it, and they were going to put the little statement on it like you see on a lot of other things, can cause cancer or does cause cancer in laboratory animals. And what they found was that glyphosate probably causes cancer. And it wasn't 100% verified, so they decided they're not going to put the label on the food because it's probable carcinogen.
Wow.
I don't know about you, but I would think that you would want to err on the side of caution, right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. You know, it's funny you're talking about labels. I was talking to a friend of mine who unfortunately is a cigarette smoker. He's from England. And we were talking about the fact that all cigarettes have this, warning label. In England, apparently, on cigarettes, in addition to the warning label, they have pictures of people who have died from lung cancer, throat cancer, and mouth cancer.
Well, and I mean, I think in our country we have to balance capitalism with what's really truly healthy for you. They're a little
Right.
bit of more of a socialistic environment, and you're going to have goods and bads from everything. But I think overseas they're usually a little bit more advanced when it comes to a lot of uh, more progressive health issues. I'm not
Right.
saying
Well,
they're better as far as health care, but they're looking more into the future, into prevention than we are.
yeah,
Um,
GMOs are hard to sell within the European Union, including England.
well, they don't. They're illegal there. They don't allow
Yeah.
them. In fact, they're starting to think about them at this point. There was an interview in 2011 with it was a flavor scientist on 60 Minutes, and let me read you a couple of little go back and forth between the scientists in 60 Minutes. So the scientist says, in our fruit flavors, we're talking about we want to burst in the beginning and maybe a finish that doesn't last too much, so you want more of it. And
Whoa, say that again?
they basically, the scientist says, we want to burst a flavor in the beginning, and we want to make sure that it doesn't last too long, right? Because we want somebody to want more of it. And so, and here's the next statement from the other person. And you don't want a long linger because you're not going to eat more of it if it lingers. And so here's 60 Minutes says, so I see it's going to be a quick fix. And then the scientist responds and he says, have more. And then the same over and over again. So it'd be an interesting show to watch. But all these flavors, whether they're natural or synthetic flavors, are completely engineered to make you want more of that food. And it's a big business. In fact,
Absolutely. I just flashed on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the movie, where they have the everlasting gobstopper. And that would be a product that would never be sold because you buy it once and you always have flavor in your jawbreaker, your candy.
well, yeah, I mean, it's, hey, I appreciate our capitalistic society, but you have to be careful as well. It's a fine line, right? Because we want to make sure that we have healthy food, but you go in the grocery store and there's so many different options. It's pretty amazing to walk into these grocery stores here in the United States, especially if you've lived in a different country. And we've had so many people come over from different countries, and they come into these stores and they go, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. And so we are fortunate to have a lot of these different options. But when you start looking at the ingredients, they're in business, and their first line is to make a profit. And you have some of these wonderful smaller organic companies that are trying to do it both ways. But most of the time, they're looking to help people and nourish them and minimize the toxicity levels. But you get some of these bigger companies that aren't in that type of business, right? Their whole thing is to make a profit and pay shareholders, et cetera. And I think you have to be very, very careful. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want natural flavorings in my food. And if a company can't tell me what's in the ingredients and has to hide it, right? Let's say, for example, we talked about MSG. In my food, I don't want it.
Right, but unless it's naturally occurring, because MSG does occur naturally, and I don't know what vegetables.
It
But
does. It occurs. Some report that occurs about 20% naturally, and you have the Asian culture which really likes that savory taste, but it is. But to be honest with you, when you start to increase the quantities, and here again, it goes back to, like we talked about, food and everything in moderation. And when you start to concentrate this stuff, what does it do to us? And I haven't seen a lot of research on it. And I don't think we're going to, because, who's going to fund it?
Mm-hmm.
The people that are going to fund the opposing opinion are, of course, the people that make the product, right?
Just like the big pharma, they fund their own research on their drugs.
Right. And, you get MSG, and basically it's a salt of glutamic acid, which is an amino acid complex. And that is natural. But then in concentrations, what does it do to you? It's hard to say.
You said something that we need to discuss. You said you don't want to eat products that have natural flavors.
No, I don't want to eat products that have natural flavorings as a hidden category to put things into that I can't see what's in my food.
Like the spit of a cockroach to make something shiny, like the Skittles.
Right. Like, for example, I was just prior to this, I was looking at different flavorings, like, the vanilla flavorings, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the ones that we had that said organic on them, they didn't have natural flavoring. They told you exactly what was in them. And in addition to that, the ones that didn't said natural flavorings. And so, for example, I have a product here, like a potato leek soup, and it says natural flavorings on it, but at the same time, it says gluten-free and non-GMO. And it also says no MSG. So they're trying to get away from having the problem of natural flavorings being listed on it. And for example, I don't have any problem eating this product because I'm looking at the rest of it, right? It says gluten-free, no added MSG, no artificial ingredients, preservative-free. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things in there that make it so I don't have a problem with natural flavorings.
Right.
So you have to be careful. There's the USDA National Organic Program, and it says if it says natural, that's if you have this certification, it's free of artificial color or flavorings, coloring ingredients, chemical preservatives, or any other artificial or synthetic ingredient. And if the product and its ingredients are not more than minimally processed, blah, 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 blah. So that part's not really important here. So, the USDA's definition of natural for meat and poultry does not address the presence of antibiotics, growth hormones, or other drugs and or pesticides, nor does it address issues of animal welfare. So here again, you start thinking that natural means that everything's wonderful and honky-dory, and it's not.
Right. I think Whole Foods has a humane rating for their animal products, whether it's poultry, meat, even fish that's farm raised. They have certain levels that they want their food that they sell to be.
Yeah, and I think everybody's different. I think that's more of a morality question. I'm for that. I want to make sure, it's bad enough we're going to eat them. I want to make sure at least their life is somewhat decent. And I think it makes a big difference for our health if we are going to consume them, how happy they are, and are their hormones balanced and everything of that nature, and are they eating the things they normally should eat instead of the stuff we've engineered for them to make them more palatable to our tastes. So I think it's really important from a health standpoint. And I don't think we've done a video on grass-fed.
No, we haven't. That would be
we should do that, because that does make a big difference in your health when you're consuming those animals.
It also affects the taste.
It does. And, some like it more, but to be honest with you, food that's engineered, let's face it, it's going to taste better most of the time. It's engineered that way, right? So, but you have to really get over what taste may be and what's healthy for you, because otherwise, if it was just taste, everybody be sitting in McDonald's and just eating burgers and French fries, right?
But at the same time, if we have engineered foods, there's got to be a way of engineering foods that are not genetically modifying the plant or the animal, And there's got to be a way, and we've talked about that. The Polish monk, we talked about it a few weeks ago, who Mendelssohn, who did his research on genetics, and you can blend an orange with a lemon, and I personally have no problem with that. But when you take the genetic materials, grow it in a petri dish, and add that Roundup, that bothers me a lot.
Yeah, hybridization, it's great to be able to understand that. And, we're all eating hybridized food all the time, right? I mean, I've got a tangerine tree in my backyard that is spectacular. And I'm sure it's been hybridized, right? Because you take two different trees, and maybe one likes the cold environment and the other one has, a lack of seeds in tangerine. You put them together, next thing you know, you have a great tree that's doing wonderful. But that's way different than genetically modifying the organism. And I want things as close to nature as I possibly can because we're built to consume them. And like I said, yes, I want natural foods, but I don't want a company to hide all this junk in a label that says natural flavorings or natural, because they can't list what's truly in there because you wouldn't eat it. Right?
Right. Not with, all the bugs and the things like that possibly they are natural, but nobody wants to eat, as I said, cockroach spit or something from a beaver's anal gland.
There you go. To be honest with you, I don't have a problem with those things so much as I do the chemicals that most people can't even read and understand.
Oh, I agree. I agree. But shouldn't shouldn't there be some kind of listing of, beaver anal gland juice, cockroach spit, things like that?
Well, yeah, I think everybody should have that option, but they're able to hide this stuff under natural flavorings or natural, right? That's the story. They're able to hide it. I don't want a company to hide it. It's like when we made our cookies, glutenfreecookies.com. We could have put things in natural flavorings. I want everything there for everybody to see exactly what it is. And I want companies that are going to be supporting me with my food to do the exact same thing. That it's transparency. And, I understand, people have to make a buck and they have to be able to make it have shelf life and all the rest of that stuff. But I'm good with not eating those products, right? I mean, somebody mentioned to me the other day, they said, hey, what if we didn't have grocery stores? I go, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I love grocery stores. In fact, I worked at a grocery store when I was a kid for 10 years. And I love the people that work at grocery stores. They're hardworking people. But I imagine that most of the products there aren't really good for you. Right.
And again, it also depends. I mean, we talked about orange soda or just orange juice. I don't know what the shelf life of orange juice would be if it wasn't pasteurized. And I believe they flash pasteurize it today. They don't boil it the way they did at one point. There's a new series of products on the market that's milk in cartons, cardboard cartons, and it lasts for 6 or 8 months. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I haven't paid much attention to that, but to be honest with you, I don't want it.
I don't either.
It's like if let's say you drop some food on the floor and the ants just walk around it and don't even look at it. I think I'm done. I don't want it.
Right? It's true. On the other hand, on my wife's kitchen floor, you could eat off of it because it is so clean. Dr. Celaya, I think we're out of time right now.
Sounds good to me. This was great, and we could talk more. In fact, we probably should talk about grass-fed animals in the future, which would be a great talk also.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Greg Celaya. If you want information on Dr. Celaya, visit his website at drcelaya.com. That's drcelaya.com. Look around. There's lots of information, lots of great articles. And of course, you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation with the doctor. No obligation, no charge. Go to drcelaya.com and stop by and visit me at latenighthealth.com. That's latenighthealth.com. For Dr. Celaya, I'm Mark Alyn. We'll see you in our next episode.